The silence had become a language of its own. Kira no longer counted the days. Time had dissolved into a singular moment that stretched across years, maybe decades. She sat in the corner of her cell, knees pulled to her chest, feeling the cold metal wall against her back. The darkness was absolute. Not that it mattered. She had been blind long before they locked her away. Her three-fingered hands traced the familiar grooves in the floor, patterns she had memorized through endless repetition. The Velathi had built this place for forgetting. They had succeeded. She was certain no one remembered she existed. Her own people had erased her the moment her eyes failed, the moment she became what they called shadow-touched, a defect, a shame to her family line. She had stopped hoping for rescue after the first year, stopped screaming after the second. By the third, she had stopped counting entirely. Now she simply existed, a ghost in a tomb that no one would ever open. Her breathing was shallow, her body weak from minimal nutrition dispensed by automated systems that cared nothing for comfort, only survival. The Velathi kept her alive, but only barely. Death would have been a kindness they refused to grant. The vibration came first. Kira felt it through the floor, a tremor that didn't match the usual patterns of the facility's aging machinery. Her long ears perked up, muscles tensing for the first time in months. Then came a sound. Footsteps, multiple sets, heavy, moving with purpose through corridors that had known only silence. Fear gripped her throat. Had they finally come to finish what they started? Had the Velathi decided even automated imprisonment was too much mercy for one like her? The door to her cell hissed. She heard the ancient lock mechanism grinding, protesting after years of disuse. Light flooded in. She couldn't see it, but she felt the change in temperature, heard the shift in acoustics as the sealed chamber opened to the outside corridor. Holy God. The voice was deep, male, and speaking a language she didn't recognize. But there was something in the tone, something she hadn't heard in so long she almost didn't recognize it. Concern. Commander, we need to move. This facility is barely stable. Another voice, female, urgent but controlled. There's someone in here. The male voice again, closer now, footsteps approaching. Kira pressed herself harder against the wall, her body trembling. Ma'am, can you hear me? The word meant nothing to her, but the gentleness did. She opened her mouth, tried to speak, but only a rasping sound emerged. Her voice had atrophied from disuse. She's alive. Marcus, get a medical scanner over here now. The presence knelt beside her. She could hear breathing, smell something foreign. Not Velathi, something else entirely. It's okay. We're not going to hurt you. My name is Jake. A hand touched her shoulder. Kira flinched violently, scrambling backward. The touch had been soft, careful. No one had touched her with care since before her eyes failed. Easy, easy. Jake's voice retreated slightly, giving her space. Marcus, what are we looking at? Severe malnutrition, dehydration, muscle atrophy. Commander, she's been here a long time. Whoever she is, they left her to rot. Then we're taking her with us. Jake's voice was firm, final. Sir, we don't know who she is or why she's imprisoned. This could be a criminal facility. The female voice from before, cautious and practical. Look at this place, Sarah. Look at her. Does this look like justice to you? Jake moved closer again. Can you stand? We need to get you out of here. Kira didn't understand the words, but she understood the intent. They wanted her to move. She tried to push herself up, but her legs wouldn't cooperate. Her body had forgotten how to do anything but survive in stillness. Strong arms slid under her shoulders and knees. She was lifted with surprising ease, her wasted frame weighing almost nothing. Jake carried her like she was something precious, something worth saving. The concept was so foreign that Kira's mind couldn't process it. She had spent so many years accepting her worthlessness that kindness felt like a trap. The journey through the facility was a blur of sounds and sensations. Voices discussing structural integrity, equipment beeping, boots on metal floors, then a new environment. Warmer. The air moved differently. Humming machinery, but smoother, more sophisticated than the prison's dying systems. Get her to medical. I want a full workup. Jake's voice again, still close. And somebody find me a xenolinguist. I want to know who she is and why she was in that hole. Kira was placed on something soft. A bed. Actual cushioning. Hands worked around her, gentle and professional, attaching sensors, administering fluids. She felt strength slowly returning to her body, but her mind remained trapped in disbelief. This had to be a dream. A hallucination born from starvation and isolation. Soon she would wake up on the cold floor of her cell and the silence would return. But it didn't. Hours passed, maybe days. People came and went. They spoke in their strange language, their voices carrying tones she had forgotten existed. Kindness, curiosity, concern. Not once did she hear disgust. Not once did anyone recoil from her blindness. A new voice emerged from the chorus, female, patient. "Hello, my name is Maya. I'm gonna try to talk with you." The woman repeated phrases slowly, pointing to objects, touching Kira's hand to different textures, teaching, learning, building a bridge between languages, word by word. Kira found herself responding, her voice growing stronger as her body healed. The woman, Maya, never showed frustration when Kira couldn't see her gestures, always adapting, always patient. "You are Velathi." Maya's pronunciation was rough but understandable, spoken in Kira's native tongue after days of work. "Yes," Kira's voice cracked with emotion. "You speak little learning." Maya's hand squeezed hers. "Your name?" "Kira." "Kira. Good. Why prison, Kira? Why alone?" The question cut deep. Kira pulled her hand away, turning her face toward the wall. How could she explain? How could these strangers understand the Velathi way, the belief that imperfection was a stain on the collective, that those who could not contribute fully were better forgotten? "I am broken," Kira whispered, shadow-touched, no eyes that see. "I am nothing." Silence followed. Kira waited for agreement, for the inevitable rejection once they understood what she was. Instead, Maya's hand returned to hers, gripping tighter. "No, not nothing. Never nothing." The words were simple, but they carried a weight Kira couldn't comprehend. She had been told her entire life that her value ended when her sight did, that her existence was a burden her people bore out of obligation, not care. But this human, this stranger from a species she had never known existed, spoke with absolute conviction that Kira was wrong. Over the following days, Maya worked tirelessly to improve communication. Kira learned that she was aboard a human exploration vessel called the Pioneer, that Jake Torres was the commander, that his crew had stumbled upon the prison facility by accident while surveying the moon for mineral deposits, that humans came from a world called Earth, impossibly far from Velathi space. And she learned that humans saw the world differently than her people. When Kira explained that she had been a scientist before her accident, that she had studied stellar phenomena until a laboratory explosion took her sight, Maya didn't offer pity. She offered anger on Kira's behalf. "They threw away your mind because your eyes stopped working?" Maya's translation was improving daily. "That's insane. That's evil. It is our way." Kira's voice was hollow. "The Velathi must be perfect. Contribute fully. I could not, so I was removed. You're still the same person. Your knowledge didn't disappear with your sight. Knowledge without ability to use it is worthless." "Who told you that?" Kira had no answer. It had simply always been true. Everyone knew it. Everyone believed it. But Maya's question planted a seed of doubt that grew with each passing hour. The humans treated her like she mattered. They modified their ship's interface to include audio cues for her benefit. They described visual data aloud when she was present. Jake visited daily, asking how she was healing, if she needed anything. Not because protocol demanded it, but because he genuinely wanted to know. For the first time in longer than she could remember, Kira felt the edges of something dangerous. Hope. Then the alarm sounded. "Commander to the bridge now." Sarah's voice carried urgency through the ship's communication system. Kira heard Jake curse softly before his footsteps rushed from the medical bay. She sat up, heart racing. Maya's hand found her shoulder. "Stay here. I'll find out what's happening." But Kira's ears were sharp, honed by years of darkness. She heard the bridge crew's voices through the open corridors, tense and rapid. "Velathi warship just dropped out of Faster Than Light. They're hailing us. How did they even know we were here? Automated distress beacon, maybe. Or they track their prison facilities more closely than we thought. Put them through. A new voice filled the ship's speakers, speaking in Velathi. The accent was formal, military. Human vessel Pioneer, you have trespassed in Velathi territory and removed property of the Velathi Empire. Return our prisoner immediately or face immediate destruction. Property. The words struck Kira like a physical blow. Not citizen. Not person. Property. Jake's response was calm but firm, translated by the ship's computer. This is Commander Jake Torres of the Earth Alliance exploration ship Pioneer. We found a sentient being imprisoned in inhumane conditions. We will not return her to that fate. You have no authority in this matter. The defective one belongs to us. Durg. Her crimes justify her containment. What crimes? Jake's voice sharpened. We've been communicating with her. She was a scientist. Her only crime was losing her sight. That is not your concern, human. You have 1 standard hour to comply. After that, we will take her by force and destroy your vessel for theft. The connection cut. Kira sat frozen, her body numb. They had come for her. Of course they had. The Velathi never left loose ends, never allowed their shame to escape into the wider galaxy. They would take her back, or they would kill everyone on this ship to ensure she never told outsiders about their treatment of the imperfect. She stood on shaking legs, feeling her way along the walls toward the bridge. She had to stop this, had to surrender herself before these kind strangers died for her worthless existence. "Kira, wait!" Maya called after her, but Kira kept moving. She found the bridge by following voices. Jake was in the middle of a heated discussion with his senior staff. "We can't fight a Velathi warship. They outgun us 50-1. Sarah's voice was strained. "Then we run," Jake replied. "Our faster-than-light drive needs 6 hours to cool down from the last jump. We negotiate, Commander." Kira's voice cut through the debate. The bridge fell silent. "I must go back." "That's not happening." Jake's response was immediate. "They will kill you. All of you. Because of me. I cannot allow this. Kira, listen to me." Jake's footsteps approached. His hand touched her arm gently. "We don't abandon people. That's not who we are. You barely know me. I am nothing to you. You're a person who was thrown away because of something you couldn't control. That makes you exactly the kind of person worth fighting for. Worth dying for?" Kira's voice broke. "I have accepted my fate. I made peace with darkness. Do not unmake that peace by dying in light I cannot see. We're not dying today." Jake's grip tightened. "And neither are you. Sarah, what are our options?" "Limited. We can try to hide in the debris field near the 4th moon. Maybe buy enough time for the drive to cool. But they have superior sensors. They'll find us." Kira's mind raced, dragging up memories she had buried. She had been a scientist once. She had studied navigation, stellar mechanics, the behavior of matter in extreme conditions. Her hands remembered calculations her eyes could no longer verify. The debris field. Kira spoke quickly. "The 4th moon. It has unusual magnetic properties. I studied it years ago. Before." She trailed off, then pushed forward. "The Velathi avoid it. Navigation systems malfunction near the anomalies." "How do you know that?" Sarah asked. "I mapped that region. Before, the data should still be in Velathi records, but they never acted on it. Too dangerous for standard vessels." "But not impossible," Jake pressed. "Not impossible. Difficult. But I remember the safe paths, the frequency shifts needed to avoid interference. You can't see our navigation console." Sarah's voice was practical, not cruel. "No. But I can hear. I can calculate. I can guide you if you describe the sensor data accurately. My mind still works, even if my eyes do not." The bridge was quiet for a long moment. Then Jake spoke, his voice filled with something Kira was beginning to recognize. Respect. "Marcus set course for the 4th moon debris field. Sarah, prepare to relay all sensor data verbally. Kira, you're now our navigator." "Commander, this is insane," Sarah protested. "We're trusting our lives to someone who can't even see the screens. We're trusting our lives to someone who knows this region better than we ever could. Someone who has every reason to help us and every reason to prove she's more than what her people claimed." Jake's voice softened. Kira, are you sure about this? She wasn't. Fear clawed at her throat. She hadn't used her scientific knowledge in decades. Her confidence had been stripped away layer by layer in that dark cell. But these humans believed in her. They looked at her and saw capability where her own people saw only defect. I am sure. The lie became truth as she spoke it. The Pioneer surged forward, engines straining. The Velathi warship followed, massive and implacable. Kira stood at the navigation station, Maya beside her, translating sensor readings into words she could process. Debris density increasing. 3 large fragments at bearing 270, range 5,000 meters. Kira's mind painted the field for memory and mathematics. Adjust course. 8 degrees starboard. Reduce speed by 20%. There's a clear path between the fragments, but it narrows quickly. Following your lead. The pilot's voice was tense but trusting. The ship maneuvered, sliding between obstacles that appeared on sensors as deadly hazards. The Velathi warship, larger and less maneuverable, fell behind slightly, forced to take wider paths. Magnetic interference building. Communications getting choppy, Sarah reported. Good. It will affect them worse than us. Smaller profile, more agile systems. Kira felt sweat beating on her skin. She was alive in a way she hadn't been in years. Her mind was racing, calculating, proving its worth. Ahead, there should be a cluster of iron-rich asteroids. They create a sensor shadow, bear directly toward the largest concentration. Sensors show, yes, there it is. But Kira, we're heading straight for them. Trust me. At 300 meters, hard dive, -40 degrees. The shadow will hide our engine signature long enough for us to change vectors without them tracking. That's a hell of a gamble. Jake's voice was steady despite the odds. So is trusting a broken Velathi. Kira smiled for the first time in years. But you did that already. The maneuver was perfect. The Pioneer dove beneath the asteroid cluster just as the Velathi warship lost sensor lock. Jake immediately ordered a course change, angling away from their previous trajectory. When the warship emerged from the interference, they were scanning the wrong sector. They're searching a grid pattern. Methodical. Sarah's voice held grudging admiration. But they're searching the wrong grid. How long until our faster-than-light drive is ready? Jake asks. 4 hours. We bought time, but not enough. Kira listened to the bridge crew discuss options, her mind still lost in the calculations. The debris field was vast, but not infinite. Eventually, the Velathi would find them, unless there is another way. Kira spoke quietly. More dangerous. We're listening. Jake moved closer. At the heart of the debris field, there is an anomaly, a gravitational eddy caused by the interaction of 3 planetary masses in unusual alignment. It creates a slingshot effect. Ships entering at the correct angle and speed are accelerated beyond normal capabilities. Exit velocity can exceed faster-than-light threshold for brief moments. That's impossible without a drive, Sarah objected. Not impossible, just never attempted. The calculations are extremely precise. Error margins are nearly zero. Miss by even small amounts and the gravitational forces tear the ship apart. But you can calculate it. Jake's voice wasn't a question. I already have. In my head. Years ago, as a thought experiment. I never had the courage to propose it. The Velathi do not reward risky innovation, but humans do. Maya's hand squeezed Kira's shoulder. We're the species that threw ourselves into space on controlled explosions because we were curious what was up there. The Velathi warship will follow us in, Sarah warned. Let them. Kira's voice hardened. They are larger, less agile. Their calculations will be slower. If we enter first with the correct parameters, we escape. If they follow without perfect precision, she didn't need to finish. Kira, I need to know. Jake's voice was serious. Can you do this? No ego, no bravado. Can you guide us through this with your eyes closed? My eyes have been closed for 20 years, Commander, but my mind remembers everything. Every equation, every variable, every probability curve. My people threw me away because I could not see, but they forgot that I could still think. Yes, I can do this. Then we're committed. All hands, prepare for extreme maneuvering. This is going to get rough. The Pioneer turned toward the heart of the debris field. Behind them, the Velathi warship detected the movement and changed course to intercept. Kira stood at the navigation station, her hands resting on the console, feeling vibrations through the metal that told her more than sight ever could. Maya described everything in precise detail: velocity, angle, gravitational readings, mass distribution. Kira absorbed it all, her mind assembling a three-dimensional map from pure data. The numbers sang to her, a symphony she had forgotten she knew how to conduct. Adjust course 2 degrees port. Increase speed to maximum safe thrust. The ship responded. The Velathi warship closed distance, weapons charging. They're preparing to fire. Sarah's voice was tight. They won't. Not yet. Too much debris. A weapons discharge this deep in the field would trigger cascade collisions. They'll wait until clear space. How do you know? Because I helped write their tactical protocols. Before I became inconvenient. The gravitational eddy loomed ahead, invisible to sight but screaming its presence through every sensor on the ship. Space itself warped, twisted, waiting to catch them like a riptide. Kira, we're at the threshold. The pilot's voice shook slightly. Produce speed by exactly 18%. Adjust angle to match my previous bearing. Extend forward shields to maximum, rear shields to minimum. We need the weight distribution precise. That leaves our stern exposed to their weapons. I know. Do it. The ship reconfigured. The Velathi warship saw the vulnerability and accelerated, closing for the kill. Kira counted heartbeats, measuring time in the rhythm of her own pulse. Now. Full thrust. Hold this exact course. The Pioneer dove into the anomaly. Space screamed. The hull groaned under impossible forces. Kira felt the ship straining, heard metal protesting, but held her course. The mathematics were pure. The universe followed rules, and she knew them intimately. Behind them. The Velathi warship entered the eddy, but too fast, too steep. Their commanders tried to correct, but their ship's mass worked against them. Gravitational forces caught them wrong, twisted them sideways. Kira heard their hull buckle through the Pioneer's sensors, heard atmosphere venting as their larger vessel came apart in the grip of physics that cared nothing for military superiority. The Pioneer shot forward, accelerated beyond anything its engines could produce. For one impossible moment, they exceeded light speed without a drive, riding the slingshot of bent space-time itself. Then they were through, erupting from the debris field at velocities that carried them beyond pursuit range. Faster than light drive, ready. Sarah's voice was odd. All systems nominal. I can't believe we're alive. Believe it. Jake's hand found Kira's shoulder. Thanks to the woman the Velathi called broken. Kira's legs gave out. Jake caught her before she fell, lowering her gently to the deck. She was shaking, adrenaline draining from her system, leaving her exhausted but more alive than she had felt in decades. You saved us. Maya knelt beside her. You saved all of us. You saved me first. Kira's voice was barely a whisper. You looked at me and saw someone worth saving. I had forgotten I was that person. You never stopped being that person. Jake's voice was firm. Your people were wrong, Kira. Disability doesn't diminish worth. It never did. On Earth, we have a saying, Maya added softly. We judge a society not by how it treats its most capable, but by how it treats those it deems least. By that measure, your people failed. But you didn't. You were brilliant before you lost your sight. You remained brilliant after. The only thing that changed was their ability to see it. Kira felt tears on her face, the first she had cried in years. Not from sorrow, but from a grief so deep she hadn't known she carried it. Grief for the years stolen from her, for the potential discarded, for the person she had been convinced she could never be again. But also hope. Terrible, wonderful hope that maybe her story wasn't over, that maybe she had value beyond what the Velathi had allowed her to imagine. What happens to me now? She asked quietly. That's up to you, Jake replied. We're headed back to human space. You can request asylum. Start over. Or we can find you safe passage to another Velathi world, somewhere your story might spark change. I don't know if I'm ready for either. Then don't decide yet. Heal first. Learn about us like we're learning about you. The future can wait. Kira nodded, exhaustion pulling her towards sleep. But before unconsciousness claimed her, she reached up, her three-fingered hands searching. Jake understood, guiding her hand to his face. She traced his features carefully, learning him through touch the way she had learned to know everything in her world. "Thank you," she whispered, "for looking at me. Really looking. Not at what I lack, but at what I am. Always." Jake's voice was gentle. "That's what humans do. We see people." Kira drifted into sleep with her hand still resting against Jake's face, and for the first time in 20 years the darkness didn't feel like a prison, it felt like peace. She had spent so long believing she existed in shadow, cut off from light she could never perceive. But she understood now that she had been wrong. Light wasn't something you had to see to know. It was something you felt. It was Maya's patient voice building bridges between languages. It was Sarah's grudging respect when Kira proved her worth. It was Jake's hand steady on her shoulder, anchoring her when physics tried to tear them apart. It was a crew of strangers who looked at a broken, discarded alien and decided she was worth the risk. The Velathi had thrown her into darkness and called it justice, but humans had walked into that same darkness and called her name. They had seen her not, despite her blindness, but as a whole person for whom blindness was simply one aspect among many. They had trusted her mind, valued her knowledge, and proven that worth was never about what you could see, but about who you chose to be. Kira had accepted eternal darkness. She had made peace with being forgotten, with being nothing, with being a shadow the universe had abandoned. Then a human looked at her, really looked, and everything changed. In the void of space, the Pioneer jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying its crew toward home. In the medical bay, Kira slept peacefully, her breathing steady, her future uncertain but no longer empty. She had spent years as a ghost. Now she was alive again. Not because her eyes had healed, but because someone finally saw what had always been there. A person. Brilliant, capable, worthy. Human enough to be worth saving, even if she wasn't human at all.